All right, let's get started. Right here, this panel is called The Musical Life of Chuck Brown and Being in the Chuck Brown Band. We have several members here who've played with Chuck Brown over the years. We have members who represent the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000 and beyond to this current day. These people here have played with Chuck Brown over the years, and we're going to let you tell them about their experiences of working with Chuck, playing and traveling with Chuck all around the country, all around the world. And I'd like to start off by having everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Donald Tillery, and I played trumpet with Chuck for, oh boy, I guess about 20-some years. Started in 1969.
A little bit closer.
Started in 1969, you know, and it was a very, very wild experience for me being younger at that time, because I had my own group, you know, and I met Chuck at I think it was a restaurant I think it was called La Gima on 14th Street. Yeah, then, you know, and he came by, he heard me, and he asked me to, you know, start, I want to be a trumpet player for his group, and all I heard was Soul Searcher, Soul Searcher, and I said, yeah, I left my band. I had 18 of them.
Before you get too far into that, I want to get everyone introduced first, and we're going to come back to that, because that sounds good.
My name's Roland Smith. I got with Chuck in 79. We played to like 80, 87, 88.
I'm Cherie. They call me Sweet Cherie Mitchell, and I've been playing with Chuck Brown for the past 12 years. I'm one of the last generations.
I'm Kigo Wellman. I got with Chuck in 94 till around 2000, 2001.
All right. So, Tillery, you were talking, and I heard you say 69. And see, we even covered 5 generations here. I'm sorry, 5 decades here. We're going back to the 60s.
I'm going
so,
way back.
Then tell us about what you were just saying about when you met Chuck, and he pulled you from your own band?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I had about 18 pieces. I had about 18 pieces, you know, with the Epsilons band. Yeah, I had the Epsilons band. And we were going through a couple of changes, especially money-wise, with 18 pieces. But anyway, Chuck, I guess Chuck came in, and he was in the back, and he came up to me, and he said, my name is Chuck Brown. I said, whoa, oh, yeah, oh. He shook his hand.
So you knew about Chuck Brown at that time?
I knew, yeah.
So he was already popular at that time?
He was already, when I heard about the Soul Searchers, you know. And he said he liked the playing, he heard about me, and he wanted to know if I would join his group. I said, yeah. Yeah, you know, I said, you know, told me when the next rehearsal, and so I came, and at that time, I think Lloyd, won't be here, unfortunately, he's sick today, but I met Lloyd, and he has been there longer than me, you know, and it was Lloyd, Horace Brock playing keyboard, and we had Brother Ricky Wellman's father was playing drums then. And Charles Wright played alto. So, and Johnny Yule was on bass, you know, and that was me, you know. It was, I really was happy to get in with it, you know.
Okay.
Joyful.
Okay, we're going to come back around, and let's hear about a little bit of your time period, Roland, with the band.
When I got with Chuck,
He said 79 it was, right?
79.
Okay.
It was right after Bustin' Loose.
All right.
And we started doing some records and stuff. But Chuck was the kind of guy, he would pick his band. Back at that time, he would pick his band. He would go places to see if you could play good enough to be in his band. He would take recommendations, but
He did that all the way up to today.
yeah.
He did.
And if you got on stage with him, if you couldn't, don't be the drummer. He would stop it. He would stop it.
Yeah.
I'd have seen him pick a guy out the crowd that played drums, because the guy we had sitting in didn't play right.
That's heavy. Being joined by Curtis. How you doing, Curtis? Good to see you. Have a seat. If you can make a quick introduction to Curtis of yourself and the years that you played with the band, and then we're going to come back and give you a chance to talk. But just make a quick introduction of yourself.
Test, 1, 2. Yeah, my name is Curtis Johnson. I'm actually the organ player. I actually started the band in 1978 all the way up to like 1991.
All right. Okay. And I didn't on keyboard. And I didn't introduce myself, and I'm very sorry. I'm Mo Shorter. I've been around the go-go scene for a long time, and I'm still here. They ain't planning on going nowhere. All right, now we're going to come to Miss Cherie.
I started playing with Chuck in 2000, and prior to that, I used to play with the Maish and the Hip Huggers with Sugar Bear. And we were playing at Club U one night, and Chuck had came in. It was Sugar Bear's birthday, and he just came and sat in. And I was playing the keyboards, and Chuck just looked at me like, oh, you know. And then after that, I received a phone call from him, and he says, how much does Sugar Bear pay you? And I said, you know, X amount of dollars. Well, you want to play in my band? And I said, well, I don't know, because my other friend, Louie Oxley, who played before me, he was playing in a band, and you know, Chuck and Louie had some things going on, and I'm not going to get into that, but Louie was about to leave the band, and I said, no, I don't want to take his spot. That's my friend. You know, I'm the type of person that, you know, I like to play fair. I don't like to take money out of anybody's pockets. Louie had a family and everything, and I was in my 20s, and I was young and single and free, and, you know, I didn't really need the gig. But when he quoted the price that he was going to give me, I said, when you want me to start? So the rest is history.
What was the question again?
Okay, we just want to know about the how you got into the band and a little bit briefly about your time period. And I'm going to get around to some particular questions.
Okay, real quick. I got in the band through my. I'm not used to talking on microphone.
He used to sit behind the drum set. He's not used to being on the
I'm
microphone, he said.
I'm a drummer, and to piggyback off what Tillery, I'm the third generation from my family.
Yep.
My uncle Franklin Wellman was the first drummer
Yeah.
for the Soul Searchers that
God
Chuck
bless
had
him.
when it was a three-piece band, pretty much. Four-piece, I'm sorry. Sax, bass, drums, and Chuck. And that was before Tillery joined him. That was my uncle. He passed young.
Yeah, you did.
His son, Ricky Wellman, got in the group as a young man. And he played during the biggest duration of the Soul Searchers when the go-go thing was really being developed. So when I got in the band was 94. My cousin Rick, it came back to Chuck after he played several years with Miles Davis. So what he did, when he would travel and do other ventures, he pretty much endorsed me to set in with Chuck, you know, and it was kind of like default once I set in, you know, because I had recorded with Chuck prior to that through Ivan Golf. By doing another session, he needed some tracks played. So when Chuck heard the tracks, that already somewhat endorsed me from him being impressed that you know the feel of his music. He's really hard on that. You know, the first thing you gotta have is that feel for him to even want you to play. Because as they said, I mean, he has that James Brown mentality where he will let you go if you're not giving him what he wants. But if you give him what he wants, he's going to pay you real good, and he's going to brag to you and let you know that I'll pay you real good.
Yeah.
And
That's
there's
right.
nobody in this area that's going to pay you like him.
Yeah.
And then he's going to go further that to say, even on a national level, you're making national money for being on a local environment, which is convenient going out your door. So to get back, in 94, my cousin was out of town longer than anticipated, so by default, I sat in. Chuck was impressed that night. I mean, he came up to me right before the gig, and pretty much he had a thing where he'll look over his glasses at you.
Right.
So he'll give you that stern talk, and
Right.
you know, so he'll tell you, watch me, and then he'll say, you know my music, don't you, boy?
I like that.
Right? And give you that stern, and then he'll smile and show you that gold tooth, and then he'll go set the pace by chucking on his guitar strings.
Yeah, right. You know me,
I
don't
made
you,
it
boy?
through that night. My cousin came back and played, so Chuck called me again when my cousin was going out of town. This was in 94, and he gave me the invitation talk. You know, I like the way you sound. how would you feel about joining my group? As Cherie said, I'm not going to undercut my cousin, you know. So he said, well, look, I know you want to talk to Ricky, but I already talked to Ricky for you. So I'm going to tell you that Ricky is okay with it. But you can call him because I don't want any family friction. So when I called Rick, Rick showed me the love. And he gave me the pearls of wisdoms of what to do as a drummer and what not to do. And I played with them for 6 years straight after that. And that was my run. And I came from EU with Sugar Bear gave me my first break at 16. So by the time I got with Chuck, I was 24. I had already played with EU and Benny and the Masters. All of these guys were raised in go-go music from Chuck. So I would hear their version of the Chuck Brown stories just playing with them. So it's kind of like when I fell into that seat, I was already conditioned. And I had a beautiful run for the 6 years with Chuck. You know what I mean?
All right. Curtis,
Yeah, man.
tell us about your start with the band and a few things about yourself there.
Oh, okay. Well, basically. Okay. I'll bring it closer to me. Well, basically, the way it happened for me, I was playing with a group called the Dynamic Corvettes. And Ricky was also playing with the Dynamic Corvettes. So Ricky had told me, yeah, Curtis, man, I'm getting ready to go with Chuck Brown. So I said, okay, you're gonna lead the Corvettes and go play with Chuck Brown and Soul Searchers. He said, yeah, man, I'm gonna make this change. So be it. So he told me, he said, yeah, man, Chuck is coming down to listen to me play tonight. So we played, I guess it was Evans Grill who was playing that. And Chuck came through. I didn't even know what he looked like. So Ricky said, man, did you see Chuck? I said, no, I didn't see him. He said he was here. So I remember a guy standing over to the left of me, and he was standing there listening. I didn't know who he was, so I got a call the next day. Hey, man, you wanna hang out with us? I said, yeah, I guess so, man. I said, you know, I would much rather play with the Soul Searchers bands because they were a DC band. The Dynamic Corvettes was a Southern Maryland band. So for me, I always had to travel way down Southern Maryland to play with the band. So to play with the Soul Searchers, who was a DC band, I said, man, you know, that's like a piece of cake, man. I'm going to do that. So I think they were playing at the Club Le Burn.
Oh, yeah.
Club Le Burn Friday and Saturday. So Chuck called me on Friday and said, can you come out tonight and play? I said, nah, man, I'm working, and I'm working late. I can't do it. He said, well, can you come tomorrow? So I said, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. So I showed up for the gig, and the organ was already there. You know, Brock's organ?
Brock, yeah.
Yeah, so Brock's organ was already there. So actually, JB was playing the organ. So when Chuck saw me coming to play, he said, oh, man, I'm so glad to see you. Man, I'm so glad to see you. Hey, get that organ. Move that JB about to drive me crazy. So they moved the organ over to the left side of the stage where Chuck be at. And that's when I actually started performing with the group from that moment on. We started playing. We recorded Bustin' Loose. Then we did the Bustin' Loose album. We went on and did the Go-Go Swing, the Run Joe, the We Need Some Money. We played all them tunes. Up to about 1990, I decided I wanted to step out of that and try to go for myself. And that's where I've been at ever since.
All right. So one thing I heard is that the Soul Searchers were in existence before they obviously before they came into their prominence, they were in existence. But it sounded like it was a core group of people that made the Soul Searchers what we know it to be today.
Well,
Tell me about that core group of people. I know you two of you sound like you played in that Soul Searchers group that started
I call
things
it the
off.
Bustin' Loose crew.
Okay, that's what I want to know. You call it the Bustin' Loose crew. All right. Tell us about the Bustin' Loose crew.
Well, basically, the Bustin' Loose crew consisted of Curtis Johnson, Donald Tillery, Leroy Fleming, Roland Smith. Jerry Wilder played bass for a while. Glenn Ellis came in and played bass. And that core of guys just kind of gelled together and just produced some phenomenal music.
So Bustin' Loose was like 79, right?
Right, exactly.
So, but when did that group kind of like get together in jail? Was that like 76, 77, 78?
No, I didn't join the group to 78.
78, okay.
78.
Yeah,
So from that point, because Bustin' Loose, like you
So
said,
when you
came
came
out
in the
with
group, it took off. So no.
yeah, you could say that too. Yeah, I could have been one of the magic elements that made it go.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead,
anyway,
Dr. Tillery.
Yeah. Well, no, in the 70s,
A little closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. In the 70s, yeah, basically, it was Lloyd, Leno Druitt on congas. At the time, myself, you know, and Lloyd Pitchback, and Johnny Yule, and Chuck, you know. And we were kind of the basic pound rig, along with Ricky's, you know, Ricky Wellman at that time. Ricky started to come in, you know. And it was basically that crew, you know. And what we would do, we would like, after a show, we were all inclined into jazz. We were jazz buffs. And I think somewhere around, that's kind of where we got all our so-called beats and stuff. We was all in Joe Zawinul and Herbie Hancock. Okay. You know, after a show, we would go over Lloyd's, and that's what we would do. We would just sit down and listen to jazz, okay, and we would get our ideas. And we wanted to be, believe it or not, the idea of go-go we got from, what's his name he just passed? Who's the sax player? Grover Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to listen to a lot of that.
Right,
and,
right.
and,
Mr. Magic beat.
Mr. Magic is considered the
And
song that got
that's
us all
what it
started
is.
here.
That's exactly what it is. Just to tell everybody, that's all it is it's Mr. Magic, the intro.
Right.
You know, and that's where we wind up with that. But thanks to Ricky, the drummer, Ricky kind of put that double kick in there and made it, you know, because it really started out. It got to a point that was the first song we would always do, you know, when we started. It totally got on my nerves. You know. But anyway, we wind up doing that, and I think we were late for a show, and we was trying to get everything. The people were outside, so we was rushing. We had finished doing another show. We rushed down to Masonic Temple, I believe. And we just started playing just the intro of Mr. Magic. You know, and we already knew. We didn't have to even say, what we going to play, you know.
Okay.
And that's where it started.
So in the 70s, we were all listening to a lot of funk. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you all were into the jazz. Yes. And then in the mid-70s is when the go-go kind of set in, when you all set the pace for that. Yeah. But I noticed in the 80s, it picked up a little more. And then I'm leading to you, Roland, where you came in, and the Congo became very, very important in the go-go set.
Yeah, I came in 79.
Okay. And so that's when go-go really started taking off around that time. So what did you hear, or what did you know about the beat that made it drive and made it go? What changed so much from doing the funk to bringing it to go-go? What changed in music?
Pretty much, Chuck would take that beat, and he could incorporate all the blues and jazz chords in it. So he could pick songs that we didn't even know. He'd throw the chords out there and say, Curtis, JB, we'll wind up playing that song. Then later on, go to rehearsal and just get parts. But he was the force behind it because he stayed on the conga player and stayed on the drummer. And if you ever watched him, he would shake his guitar.
Exactly.
When he shake that guitar and he's shaking it rough, something wrong.
You in trouble.
You have to know why he's shaking that guitar, and you fall in line with it. Regardless of what you want to play, what you want to feel.
Yeah.
You know, he'll throw it in there.
Okay.
You know, so you had to, he was a real good band lead.
Yeah. Okay.
Real good band lead. And then as far as the segue, what I mean when you put songs together, he told me it comes from the era when we used to fight to get gigs because the clubs had the DJ. So the club owners would say, man, why pay this band, man? That DJ can play all night. So Chuck took care of that. We can play all night too. So he could take up. Sometimes we used to learn songs off the DJ. The DJ fades out. We come on stage and we go right into that song.
Right. Okay.
And play all night.
So he said the band can play all night too, huh?
Yeah, he said band
That's
play
what
all
kept
night.
things going, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man. So one of the things I heard, especially on this end, I mean I heard it from everybody really, but especially on this end, and this is known on the go-go scene, that Chuck pays well. And we ain't gonna get into how much money that may be, but that was always important to a lot of people to make sure they get paid well, and especially like you said, Kigo, coming out your door to get money that people who travel around the country to get, it must be a great feeling. Can you, two of you, elaborate on that?
Well,
I mean, you did a little early, but just a little bit more, you know.
I mean, the thing about it is that, for one, I mean, it's a blessed thing like for example, if you go to a national concert around town, right, and you know the musicians in the band, you know usually the cover charge is like $40 to $60. In go-go music with Chuck Brown, once these cats laid the blueprint for it, Chuck Brown will play by himself, and he can charge, with the promoters, will charge anywhere from $40 to $100, depending on what they had on. If you wasn't dressed in a certain way, you had to pay $100 to get in. I say that to say that when you talk to the guys in the national groups and they talk about their salary, when you mention your salary, they looking at you because for one, go-go is a DC thing. It's a diamond in the rough. So when you tell them how much you make, you know what I mean, they blown away. Because they like, you know, they the ones who remind you, well, you telling me you can go out your door and y'all playing the same set night after night. And the feel of that groove makes people feel so good, they don't care if you never change your set list. It's just like Frankie Beverly.
Right.
Once it feels good and it's a call and response, they're not too much tripping off the songs you play. And you throw a new song in, but I mean, I was still playing go-go swing in my era. These guys created that groove. You know what I mean? So that was a beautiful thing. So the monies that you made, you literally didn't have to work a day job because you're playing 3 to 4 times a week. And then on the weekends was always a swing type of deal. You know?
Cherie, during your run with the band and still now these days, you're pretty much out in front a lot. You're singing, you have a lot of showmanship with you. How did you get to be out in front with the band performing?
I learned that from playing with Sugar Bear and from watching Chuck. You know, playing the piano is one thing I found that, you know, I can play, and I found that I got a lot more attention and I was more popular when I stood out in the front. And it really wasn't my idea. Chuck, you know, really wanted to push me, and still, you know, before his passing, he always, you want to sing? I'm like, no, I'm really shy. But, you know, I did receive a lot more attention that way, and I used to watch artists like Beyonce and Tina Turner and get ideas just to bring the showman side of it, because it wasn't, at the time when I joined, it wasn't that many females in bands. You know, I was pretty much like the only one at the time, and I just felt that I just needed to work it, you know, while I'm here, just milk it,
So
you know, be that woman.
He was very supportive of that. Chuck
Very
was.
supportive. And when I didn't sing, when I didn't go in the front, he was upset. And I'm like, well, Pops, you know, and I love, one thing I loved about him is that he didn't mind sharing the spotlight. You know, a lot of artists, they want to be the diva, they want to be the center of attention, but he was willing to share that with Benny, with Funk,
And
with
you make a
myself,
very
KK,
great
and
point.
yeah.
Chuck, over the years, Chuck has always invited people to be a part of his stage, a part of his set. And you make a very good point with that, because he's had those names, Benny, Benny, Sugar Bear, his daughter, KK, and so many others, Funk, Big Tony. He always lets everyone else share the stage, and he was a great man for doing that. I want to go in a different direction for a moment and ask about traveling, because I know the band has traveled around the world, and I don't know if everyone has done that, but can anyone share their stories about traveling with Chuck, what it was like to travel with Chuck and the band? You know, come on, Roland, come on, tell me
I had
about
the
it.
opportunity to go to Japan with Chuck, and I'm thinking, do these people really know this go-go music? And we get off the plane, we go to this first club, the Ink Stick. The people were waiting for Chuck, and Chuck come out with his little dress jacket on. And, you know, you're looking at Chuck like, Chuck says, this is the only way they recognize him from his picture over there. But when we took the stage, everybody was singing the songs. And the band was like, they know this. they knew every song.
This was Japan.
Yeah.
Okay.
They knew,
English, too. They know
they
the
sung it in
words.
English. They knew the words every night. And then over there, you had to do like an hour and a half or something encore. So after the 2-hour set, you had a break, and then you had to come out and play for another hour and a half, straight up. And all the young guys, we tired. We used to ask ourselves, man, how does he do that? You know, Pops was a bad dude, man.
Oh, yeah.
Chili.
Yeah.
You,
Well, we did some nice. I remember when we did the Soul Train tour, and that's when the Bustin' Loose was coming out. We did the Soul Train tour with the Dramatics. I think it was Candy State and the Dramatics and everybody. And Chuck was the kind of guy, especially we would be rehearsing on. We had this customized bus, and we would go over the songs on the bus while we was on the road. We going to the next show, and we gonna do this, man. We gotta get this stuff straight. I said, man, come on, Chuck. We laid back. We been trying to enjoy. But yeah, we would get up in the morning while the bus driver was traveling, and we would run through the tunes before we even get to the show. A lot of us didn't like it, but I understood where he was coming from. But he was that kind of guy. He wanted to make sure that he put on a good show for the people. And I think one of the things that really helped the band is like Roland was saying, the certain people he picked. He had that gift. That he would he like you said, you would feel. He knew certain musicians. He'll come up, yeah.
He knew you fit.
He knew that you would fit. And I don't know how he did it, but it's like every personality he had something that would add. And as you can see, we're the band and the people are still, moving on with some of the things that he taught us, and we also, got from him. I'm still doing something. You're still doing it.
Basically, his band almost sound like if he played every instrument.
Yeah.
So he would pick you out.
Yeah.
In his mind, he'd say, okay, I like that sound.
That's it.
I'd play it like that. So he picked it. If he was playing every instrument.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Chuck was the musical leader of the band over the years, but was he the manager also?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So what kind of manager was he?
Oh,
Was he firm? Was he loose? In between where?
Well, Chuck was he was kind of forward and straight. It's business. It's the way it's got to be. This is how things have to happen. It wasn't like it was real free or real loose. You get to do what you want to do. You do get to do what you want to do, but you're still confined to a certain set of rules that Chuck laid down. This is the way I want it. And Chuck, being around Chuck, he was a real nice guy to just be around. Him and I used to hang together a lot outside of playing with the band. And he's always got a real smile. He's always got something to laugh about. We laugh a lot. It's just a real good guy just to be around.
You hit on a good point. So I know he loved his family. He spent a lot of time with his family. But outside of his family and outside of performing, what did Chuck Brown do in his normal everyday life? What did he do?
Ride around the city. Ride around the city. He would love Northeast, Sheriff Road, barbecue, U Street.
Go get a shoe shine.
Go get a barbecue. And he never wanted to go alone. He said, come on, man with me, man. Come on, Chuck, I gotta go home. No, man, come on, man. We gotta go to this barbecue, man. We gotta go over to Ebony Inn, get this barbecue. He would ride all night. We would ride around. It was fun for a while, but he just loved that. And he'll meet people. He'll get out the car and he'll shake hands. Chuck, hey, how you doing? These are people he grew up with way back before he even started. He was one of those kind of guys. He would always go back to his roots. And Sheriff Road, Palmer Park, all up in that area. He would go, but he would always have either me, Lloyd, or anybody. We had to go with him. That's my band, man. My guy in the band, man.
Well, by the time I joined the band, he was more so a family man. He had his 2 sons, he had grandkids, so at that point, he was more so about his family, spending time with those kids and supporting his sons in college. And, they went to Virginia State, played football. So all he talked about to us about his sons playing football. And, he was always at every game. And he just loved his grandkids. So that's what he was going through by the time I got in the group.
Okay. We getting close to time to wrap it up here. Any audience questions? And I'm going to take the mic out to anybody that want to ask a question. All right?
Yeah, how you doing? I kind of got into Chuck kind of late in life, probably about 9 years ago, and I'll make a comment and a little question. And that was after my daughter was having a Sweet 16 party, so my son hooked up a lot of these about 2 of the up-and-coming go-go bands to come out and play. And we had about 250 kids there. That's another story that was playing. But and that night I looked at they had the band. I was kind of mesmerized because it was 2 bands, and they had the full complement, and they even had the backup singers and everything. So I just stood there all night, just captivated. I'm saying, wow, this beat, and the kids were going wild. And so I really, at that point, I started to appreciate the music, and then I started to looking into what Chuck was doing. And I guess I've had the pleasure over the last 9 years to go to different events, various venues where he has played and so forth, and kind of had the privilege of seeing him play, maybe if not one of his last performances, which was out at the Martin's Crosswinds at one of my fraternity's events back in March. Yeah. And it was awesome. I mean, it was really awesome. He got everybody up, and it was also, he was always somebody that I thought could take the crowd and just move them to a frenzy a little bit. Mm-hmm. And having said all that, I really started listening to him, and thing was going and listening to the music. Now, when we were in a previous session, the gentleman indicated that hand dancing is the, official dance of DC, and I know that Go-Go now, I know it's the official music of DC. So you all have been around with him all these different decades. So how in 1 or 2 words would you then characterize, Chuck Brown's baby Go-Go? How would you characterize it in 1 or 2 words each of you? I'd just be interested to know, since that's DC official music.
Non-stop party music.
Yeah. Feel good music.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, in the pocket.
Yeah.
In the pocket, just on the
Genuine.
And one of the other things I think Chuck that had the go-go beat was a lot of young kids at the time was going, and I think it kind of kept a lot of the kids off the streets, doing a lot of crazy things. The parents knew at that time if their son or daughter wasn't there, where am I? Oh, he's at that go-go. And believe it or not, they would be there, and it was one of those things, instead of going out and just roaming and doing anything, everybody was at that go-go. So they were coming out their windows, and their mamas thought they would sleep. They'd be sneaking out the fireplace, and then out the fire and going to the clubs, and I'd be looking at, what the heck are these little kids? How they get in here? But that's where they were. So I think that had a lot to do with it,
So that was me. I grew up.
Oh, yeah, you look familiar.
I used to go see Rassens. Rassens was big for me, like late 70s, early 80s, 81, 82. We used to go go-go's a lot, and I was wondering that you mentioned funk and you mentioned Little Benny.
Yeah.
Did they used to play with Chuck or whatever? And before you answer that, when I was a kid, my mom and dad, who are in their 70s now, used to have, I remember seeing a flyer, Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers at a cabaret. So that was kind of probably before Go-Go.
Right.
Okay, so my question was, do bands like Rassens, were they competing with Chuck, or did he start them?
In a way, you want to do it, or you want to?
No, during that time, we had cabarets.
Yeah.
But during that early 70s, because I used to go too, we always called it
Paid your money.
the Go-Go.
Yeah.
We always called it that. 72, 73, 74. When we go, we going to the Go-Go.
Yeah.
And most of the bands like EU and, for example, we didn't compete, maybe compete for gigs, but not for a sound.
Yeah.
Well, I think basically the other groups, they kind of idolized the sound that we had and basically began to copy it.
Yeah.
I even know for a fact, some of the bands used to take our tapes home and study them. And come back and develop that sound until they were able to develop their own sound, which was similar to the sound that we had.
Yeah, Roland and our friends, and when we first went to the Go-Go, we was hooked from day one.
Yeah.
It was about maybe about 70, 69 or something like that.
Yeah.
But I remember Petey Green, when he passed, we had a lot of people that remembered him.
Yeah.
And now Chuck has gone on to, the next level.
They got their own band.
How do we preserve the culture and the history and record it, for the millenniums, for our future generations, so it does not get erased? And Go-Go it is a cultural art form. It's a specific genre of music that is, indigenous to the District of Columbia. How do we preserve that history and the culture? That's what I'm interested in.
By keeping it going. By the matter of fact, it's still going on along with KK and some of the younger groups, that's coming up with the go-go. I did a show last night in Forestville, young go-go group, That's what it is, just keeping that legacy going.
And one other thing we do to preserve it is to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And it's the purpose of the Smithsonian Folklife Festival is to continue the cultures of different neighborhoods and communities around the country and around the world. So we have discussions like this to keep it going. And then there's a proliferation of go-go bands out there that are going to never stop playing the music. Have another question back here.
Has Chuck Brown got his due respect in the music industry? You speak of it being DC music. What about globally?
Locally, he has, but nationally,
No.
I think not.
No. They did announce it at the BET. That was good, but no, he hasn't really got his respect that he would need. The wildest thing about it is, a lot of states. I met a guy, bass player from Memphis, who never even heard of go-go. So it's kind of a thing where the go-go is here. When you mention DC, you mention music, it's right here. And he said he never heard anything about go-go or started playing until he got to DC. And Memphis is like, Stack, Isaac Hayes type. They're into that, but he never mentioned it. So go-go is basically here.
And this is the only city you can come and actually participate in a go-go environment, in a go-go setting, and actually see a go-go band.
Yeah.
No other place can you can't go to Texas
That's right.
or California and go in a club and actually see a go-go band perform, a local go-go band from here.
Yeah.
I thought that when Chuck Brown died that he got quite good coverage here in D.C. I remember on NPR they were doing stories about him. He was on the front page of the Post above the fold when he died, so I was very impressed with that coverage. However, the Post article that I read kind of described a tension between the older go bands and Chuck Brown and the newer bands, and that there's some kind of, tension between that music then and this music now. And I just wonder, from your perspective, was that accurate or just...
Nah, I don't believe that.
Nah,
I don't,
nah,
because
nah.
Chuck could see
With
any
no
go-go
tension.
band. I mean, it could be some little boys playing. And I never ever heard him criticize any of them. He'd say, I love it. He'll go up and talk to them and say, y'all keep on doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he embraced all.
Yeah, he embraced all that.
Yeah.
He loved the youth.
And believe me,
That was
I
his
know
big
I was
thing.
there. I was there,
Yeah, we could think they sound
Yeah,
terrible,
yo,
but Chuck be
but
like,
Chuck,
hey, man.
he would always give him credit, Yeah, that's a myth.
Later on this afternoon, we have another panel discussion talking about go-go then, go-go now, and it's definitely going to talk about the transition of the music from the traditional sound to a newer sound that's kind of developed and evolved today. So I think that session is about 2:30 or so, somewhere around there. But we have another session called Go-Go Then, Go-Go Now, and we're going to talk about that. But there's definitely no tension. Chuck supported it all.
Yeah.
He was always supportive of all the young people. Now I got another question back here, and I'm coming over there.
Hello, my name is Michael. I've been following Go-Go for about 25 years, and I appreciate the band members that have played with Chuck Brown throughout the years. My question was, were any of you on tour with him in the late 90s when he toured in Japan?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I did 91.
Also did a couple of European
No,
tours.
not-
I mean,
No,
we did 'em
2001.
back
I'm
in-
sorry.
Roller. We did them
2001.
back in when? 70? Wasn't 70, but like 86, 87. We were doing some
Oh,
European
you're talking
tours
about,
back then.
yeah. Antonio, Texas, yeah. Those, I remember.
Yeah, well, I know I did London, Japan.
I'm sorry, I was in
Well, I
2001. I
didn't-
misunderstood your question.
Yeah.
For
For the members who were in the band for Bustin' Loose, do you have any stories about recording? And also, I want to let everyone know I'm visiting from New Orleans. There are a lot of people in New Orleans that love go-go music, and when I was little, they used to play go-go music on the commercial radio stations, and all the musicians love it. So thank you for what you've done. We're listening.
Yeah, New Orleans, yeah. Thank you.
Chuck has performed in New Orleans. We did the Essence Festival years ago, and I had an opportunity to go to the local clubs, and they played a lot of Zydeco music, you know, so it's pretty much the same thing. In your town, it's Zydeco, and here it's go-go, so we both have to try to get our music to spread nationally and internationally.
Yeah.
So following up on that, I think it's incredible that we have our own music for everybody. But it would be great to be able to share it with the other 49 states.
Yeah.
So why hasn't it spread? It's been around for what, 30, 40 years? And you have to explain it to everybody every time you go out.
I think it has spread. It has spread. It's just that, I mean, as he was explaining, locally, I mean, just like rap music, I mean, if you're interested in it, you have to do your research if you're from out of town. Go-go is a very syncopated groove. Everybody just can't play it. You know, that's the reality. So for it to be nationwide, I mean, you have Trouble Funk, EU, and the Junkyard Band, and Reds and the Boys. Those were the national go-go groups who had hits, who's been covered in movies, who have traveled the world. I mean, I've been to Japan with EU. I've been to Jamaica with Chuck Brown. Trouble Funk, they had national success. They're one of the most sampled go-go groups of all time to this date. And rap became big, so amongst the rap industry, they know what go-go is. Definitely when they come to DC, because 9 times out of 10, they may be at platinum status, but a go-go band has to close the show because it just doesn't work like that.
When they come here.
Yeah. So they definitely know, and a lot of music enthusiasts know. But it hasn't made the pop level with just every household name. But if you're a music connoisseur, if you don't know go-go, if someone says, well, you heard Doing the Butt, or you heard Drop the Bomb, or you heard Bustin' Loose, or Sardines and Pork and Beans, you know what I mean? Or Moving and Grooving, they'll say, oh, I know those songs. Then you say, well, that's a go-go song. You know what I mean? So you just don't have someone stamping every inch of go-go music, but it's been big since Bustin' Loose. You know what I mean? It's just that for a New York go-go band to happen, is not just as simple as just the musicianship. You have to have a percussion section. That what makes a funk band into a go-go band, and it has to breathe. If it doesn't do that, you just have a regular jazz, R&B, or funk group. And they have to do their research by migrating to DC to see how it works, because they will overplay. That's why when national groups try to do it, if they don't have a DC person behind it,
it doesn't sound the same.
Right. It doesn't swing the same. But they made an attempt to do it. But Jill Scott did a great go-go song for her to produce it from out of Philly and have no DC influence. So it's definitely, at this point, they know of it.
Who's go-go?
You know?
So he took that. And let me tell one more thing on that. Another example on that question. For instance, California. Like the California is mostly hip-hop rappers. You know, now like you were saying, there's a lot of groups who want to do it. But for instance, if you take go-go out there to California and mix it with the hip-hop, you're going to get a problem. Because right now, that's their money, the hip-hop. You know, that's the thing. And if go-go goes out there, which it should, but if it gets out to that point and it starts beginning to be a thing like it's here, that means they're going to have to change in order to keep that money going. They're going to have to change into that go-go route. And a lot of them, like I said, can't do it. You know, it has to breathe. You have to really know that beat. You got to know when to put it in. You know how to do it. You got to know how to really rap. Right. So they don't want to do that. So they would rather kind of keep it the way it is. Because, you know, there's not too much go-go in California. You know, you go into hip hop, you know, metal rock, and you know, but it has a lot to do with the sound and the beat. You know.
You said something, and I want to make a point about it. It's so easy for hip hop groups. It's so easy to get out there and move on and be in existence because there's so few people in a hip hop group. But with a band, you have a lot of people involved, so it's not always as easy to get a band started and going. And because there's so many personalities involved too, everybody want to be in charge, you know.
Yeah,
so it's always harder to get a band going. And what's important with a go-go band is chemistry.
Right.
You have to have the chemistry. And see, look at the head shaking. Look at the head. They know you gotta have that chemistry, especially between the conga player and the drummer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you ask your question, but I got a point. Another question I want to ask here. I've been around go-go for 30 plus years.
Long as we there.
Okay, now here's my question. I know about all the bands. I know where everybody practice at and when they practice. All my time in existence, I never knew where Chuck Brown and his band practiced at. Where did y'all practice? That's what I want to know. Cause
one time we practiced at JB house. JB's basement.
Okay.
Chuck's basement.
We even practiced at my warehouse for a
Y'all kept it close.
The warehouse.
Yeah. It was a lot of places.
Perfect sound.
We were at established
But y'all kept the
rehearsal.
secret though, because I
we
never
did.
know. I knew
We
where
did.
everybody else practiced at.
It was a secret.
No, we were in
back in the
basements.
day. That's when we was practicing at Horace Brock's house in
Now,
Southeast.
I heard y'all had practiced in Bury Farms one time. Is that true? Is that true? True? Okay. Because I know the guy. He said, I
Bury
said, man, I
Farms,
don't know.
yes.
I said, I got to check on this one. Let me find out.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's usually how it
Sugar Bear
starts.
too.
Yeah.
We did all that. We used Sugar Bears used to practice in his apartment building.
Okay.
So we started out old school. You know, we in
Okay.
those days.
You got another question? Where the young man go? The question. He's gone? Okay. You want...
Over the years, I partied a lot with Go-Go and with Chuck Brown, and the last time was with my brother out at Munu in March. But the part that touched me the most from Chuck was the other side of Chuck. Okay? That was the part that I enjoyed the most, that we hear very little about. And could you all talk about that and the collaboration that he did with Eva Cassidy? And did any of you all play on any of those gigs? Nobody?
No,
Did none of that?
No, but he always talked about, because our whole set were like jazz songs. Like if we had a crowd that was a little older or something like that, then we wouldn't go into the radio playlist. We would just do Moody's Mood, Harlem Nocturne, and songs like that. What was that lady's song? Wish I Knew.
Wish I Knew, yeah.
Songs like that, old songs.
Those are jazz tunes.
Yeah.
Jazz, yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up now. But I want you to all remember, be safe out here. You have your sprinklers over here. You have your water stations back there. You have the Museum of Natural History, American History, for the air conditioning. And once again, you want to make another point?
Yeah, one more point before I go.
Okay.
Before I go, the main point is for, especially for all the young kids out here who goes to Go-Go's, please vote. Please vote this year. You know, that is, aside of all the Go-Go and everything, it's very important that we get the young people to vote. Okay? We need it. Thank you.
I want to say something real quick before we leave. I just want to say how much we, the younger generation, we appreciate the three of you, all of you guys, the Soul Searchers.
sure.
You were innovators of Go-Go, and because of you guys and your hard work and the toils and tribulations, everything that you went through, I know y'all have a lot of other stories to tell about Chuck, but we're not going to get into that. But because you went through that, it allowed us to have what we have. We would not be performing, making money, having fun, and doing what we enjoy doing. We don't have to work a day job. We do this and we enjoy it because of you guys. Curtis, I met Curtis for the first time at Chuck's funeral, and I've been studying everything that you've done on Bustin' Loose, on We Got Some Money, and I still need to hook up with you to make sure I'm playing the right chords. Just to make sure. But I just wanted to say that Kiko and I, everybody in Chuck's band, we really appreciate the guys that had made it possible for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As we close out, I want each of you all to say your name again, and so that we'll have it on record, your names.
Yeah, once again, my name is Curtis Johnson. I represent a band now called Curtis Johnson and the Band Eternity. We got a couple of new records out, and I just want you to look out for them. And we'll be playing in clubs around town. I just want you to look out for us. And once again, the name is Curtis Johnson and the Band Eternity.
Okay. And my name is Donald Tillery. I was the trumpet player for Chuck. And I just hope that y'all got something out of what we were saying about Go-Go, the positive things about Go-Go, you know. And there's a whole lot of positive. You might be hearing a lot of negative, but there was a lot of positive things on Go-Go. Thank you.
My name's Roland Smith. I was the conga player. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening.
I'm Cherie, Sweet Cherie Mitchell, and I play keyboards for Chuck Brown. And I also have a female band called Belladonna, and we play go-go, R&B, hip-hop, everything. So I just want everyone to please continue to support go-go music. It's our music, it's our culture, it's our life, and please just keep on supporting us.
There's just one more thing I want to mention. Everybody else mentioned what they played. I play organ. On
Yes,
Bustin'
you do.
Loose, when you first hear the organ, da-da, whatever I'm playing, that's me.
All right, and I'm Kigo Wellman, and as I said, my family, the Wellman family, has been with Chuck from the beginning, and I also like to pay homage to my cousin Steve Coleman, who was the trumpet player that came in after Tillery's tenure. So, and as well, Chuck lived with my cousin Steve Coleman for a few years. So, you know, I had a very, very good experience playing with Pop through my 6 years. And we remained close friends after I wasn't in the band. And, you know, and the main thing, it was all about family.
Yeah.
Once he endorsed you in his band, you become an extended part of his family to the end. And I just had a great time. And thanks to everybody for the support.
And what was the name we had to call him? What do you call him?
Pops.
Pops,
All
right.
Pops, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm Mo Shorter, and I'm from the Go-Go Coalition, and this has been the musical life of Chuck Brown and being in the Chuck Brown Band. This is the City 5 performance area brought to you by the Smithsonian's Anacostia Community Museum and the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. Enjoy your day, everybody.
Goodbye, y'all.
Peace.